Okay, I think you've seen the movie and you probably know quite a bit about me anyway, but in case you don't, I'm just going to give you a little introduction. Started competing in bodybuilding in England in the mid-80s. After about 1.5 years training, I did my first competition, which was area novice competition, which I got first place in. I won that competition and I got a very good response from the judges and the officials in the English Federation, and they actually invited me to compete in the following weekend in World Games, which is equivalent of a World Championship in the heavyweight class. So I went from one weekend in my first competition as a novice to be next weekend in World Championship. Actually, I was not really that happy to be in the World Championship at that stage because I didn't feel I was ready. But in any case, I got 7th place out of 13 competitors with only 1.5 years training, and these were world-class competitors. Maybe they've been training for 10 years. So actually, 7th place wasn't so bad. I went to compete in the British Championship, which is our national championship, as a heavyweight in 1986, and won the heavyweight class. But I didn't win the overall category, which at the time you had to win to be professional. So I went back in 1988 and won the heavyweight class and the overall category, which then made me eligible to be professional. So I qualified to be professional in 88, but I didn't compete straight away because I wanted to put some more time in training to make sure that when I did compete on a professional level that I'm able to be competitive and try to place well. So my first show I did in 1990 was Night of Champions in New York in America, and got 2nd place there with about 25 competitors. So I got 2nd place in 1990, which would actually qualify me for Mr. Olympia, because you have to place in top 3 of professional contests to be in Mr. Olympia. But I chose not to compete that year because, again, I wanted to improve before stepping up to that level. So I went back to the Night of Champions again in 1991. This time I won that contest and went to compete in my first Mr. Olympia later in the year 1991, where I got 2nd, and that was the first time that somebody had got 2nd on the first try at the Mr. Olympia. 1992 was my first win in the Olympia. The first year I got 2nd. Went back in 92 and won the contest, and of course that was the first time that somebody won the contest living outside of the United States. And then pretty much my goal every year from then was everything revolving around training for the Mr. Olympia, keeping the title and trying to improve my physique. 1987 was the 6th time I won the title, and the last time I competed. The major reason for that was the injury that I got getting ready for a contest, where I tore the tricep tendon in 97. After the contest I had surgery, but I realized that I wasn't going to be able to train the way I wanted to. I wasn't going to be able to train 100%, so that was one of the main reasons that I decided to retire at that point. So there's a little bit about my history in competing and everything like that. Really what I want to do is open the seminar to questions, and as many questions as you like, whatever subjects you want to ask me about, whether it's training, nutrition, getting ready for contests, anything you'd like to ask me, I'll try to do my best to answer your questions. And if you don't have any questions, I can go and drink some vodka and go
Jeśli nie macie, who do you think is the best, who was the biggest competitor for you, and what do you think about the next Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman?
When I was competing, there was a lot of quality. There was a lot of guys that were very good.
Kiedy
I think there was more quality competitors in the 90s than there is now. Now you have a couple of guys that are outstanding, Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler. When I was competing in Mr. Olympia, I think there was several guys that came second to me. There was Sean Ray, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Laveron, and Nassel Sambati, and all these guys were very good. But it's the same in both languages. Huh?
yeah.
But if I had to choose one of those guys, the guy that had the most potential was Flex Wheeler. He had an incredible physique, but he didn't really have the dedication and drive that's necessary to be the very best. And then the question is, what do I think of Ronnie Coleman? I think he's incredible. Really unbelievable size. Gets into good condition. This year he wasn't in his best shape. I think he was injured, so he wasn't at his best. So Ronnie was not in his best shape, and Jay Cutler was a little bit better this year. So I think it was correct that Jay Cutler won the title, but maybe next year Ronnie can be in his best shape and can change things around. So it's interesting to see. Dobre? Okay. Who's next? Somebody.
How many times a week do you train now?
Now I do train 3 times a week with weights, and then 3 times a week some kind of cardio, sometimes bike, sometimes running, some martial arts, where it's always something different. So 3 times with weights, 3 times with cardio. Now I'm only trying to maintain a certain strength and muscle size, and it's more. I'm more concerned now with fitness and being healthy, so it's a little bit different to when I was training for Mr. Olympia.
You have been in favor of heavy-duty training. So do you still train like this? Because I think that such a kind of training can cause a lot of injuries. So do you maintain this opinion, and do you still train like this now when you are retired?
Okay, well, the term heavy duty is just a term that Mike Mentzer used when he put together a system of training. So I prefer to call it high intensity training. So it's very intense and short by nature.
Yeah.
So no high intensity training or heavy duty training is not, as long as you're doing the exercises in a controlled way, is no more injury risk. Having said that, I have had a couple of serious injuries during my career. That was not really down to the type of training that I was doing. It was just down to myself not taking sufficient rest when I got minor injuries, which are inevitable with any kind of training. Just the mentality that I had, that always pushing and not taking time off. That in itself was maybe a mistake, especially in a contest phase. But answering your question, yeah, I still think it's the best way to train.
What do you do now? And is bodybuilding still so involving for you as it used to be?
Well, I have a couple of gyms in England, temple gyms, you can see. And we put together a franchise deal, which is available now in the States, and also we're making it available in Europe. So we're signing up franchise gyms in the States now, so I'm involved in that. I've been involved in the supplement industry and some promotion of contests, and this year I was judging at the Mr. Olympia, so I'm still fairly involved in the sport, although you know, my life is a little bit more relaxed now because I'm not training for competitions and so on. So I'm still pretty much involved.
If, Dorian, you have drunk some Polish vodka, what kind?
I'll never drink.
What kind of vodka do you like best?
Free vodka.
Dorian, I wonder, did you never thought of moving to the United States?
Yeah, I did think about it sometimes, but in a way it almost was to my advantage to stay in England, because it's where I'm familiar with, it's where I've got friends and family, and kind of it's a lot of distractions in the States. Maybe you can make a little bit more money, but there's more distractions, more people pulling on your time. So I preferred when I'm not competing or when I'm not doing appearances in the States to totally get away from everything and give myself a rest, because it can become very mentally consuming and tiring to be around the sport all the time, and people get burnt out from it. So I like to be as normal as possible, as much as possible, if you can do that in a professional sport, you know. And while we're on that subject, just let me tell you something. When I started bodybuilding in the 80s in England, we had very poor gym facilities, not very many supplements, and all the successful bodybuilders were coming from the States. Everybody was telling me there's no possible for an English guy to be successful, professional, or Mr. Olympia, and you know, everything is better in America. And now I think the gyms you have in Poland and the supplements and everything like that is much better than I had in the 80s. So the people that was telling me that I couldn't be successful, I simply didn't listen to them. And so the point is that I'm trying to make, it doesn't matter where you come from. You don't have to be living in America. If you've got the potential and you've got the drive and the desire, then you can do it in wherever you live in. It's Poland, Russia, China, it doesn't matter. If you've got it, you've got it, you know.
What do you think about the future of bodybuilding? Do you think that huge competitors like Kovac will be promoted, or rather Flex Wheeler?
Well, it's two totally different bodies. I mean, everyone is always asking, you know, should it be the big guys or should it be the guys with the better shape? It's neither. It's the combination of factors. Have good proportions, good condition, and good muscle size. But all things being equal, then the bigger guys are going to win.
Są to dwa zupełnie różne.
It's not enough to be just a very big guy. Otherwise, Greg Kovac would win a contest. He hasn't placed anywhere. No disrespect to Greg, he's a nice guy, he's a very big guy, very strong, but he's not going to make a bodybuilder because he doesn't have the proportions and the shape. On the other hand, you got a lot of small guys got very nice proportions and shape, but they don't have the muscle size. So you have to have the two things coming together.
What was your diet look like when you were in shape, in your top shape?
Well, it wasn't so different from my diet in the off-season. It's basically the same food, except for getting ready for a competition. I would slowly reduce the calories from carbohydrates. So it was basically 6 meals a day, with each meal maybe 50-60 grams of protein. It could be from different sources, from egg whites, from chicken or turkey, fish, beef, or protein supplements. And then carbohydrates made up from oats, rice, potatoes, vegetables, fruit, these kind of things. About in the off season, probably total 6,000 calories a day. And getting ready for a competition, I would probably begin somewhere below 5,000 calories and maybe slowly come down to 4,000 by the competition. But everybody's metabolism is different, so you have to find out, you know, how many calories is maintaining your body weight, and then go down from that if you want to lose. And there's a combination between bringing the calories a little lower and doing more exercise to burn more calories, so using more cardio exercise, getting ready for competition, up to 1 hour a day of fast walking, cycling, this kind of things.
Do you think that black people have better natural qualities to take up bodybuilding?
If you want a very general answer, then probably yes.
Did you found any friends or one special friend during your time as a pro? And do you have still contact? And how does this contact look like?
It's kind of difficult when you're competing with people on a professional basis. You know, it's a very competitive sport, and also there's money involved, so it can be difficult. But I was quite friendly with Flex Wheeler when we were still competing together, and I see him, we don't have regular contact, but I see him at most of the major contests and stuff like that. I'm friends also with Dennis James, but I didn't really compete with Dennis. He wasn't competing when I was at the top. And yeah, most of the guys I'm on a friendly enough basis, but not like we're in contact all the time. And of course it makes it difficult because you're living on another continent. So yeah, friendly but not best friends.
Do you expect your son to follow your career and your life?
I don't expect him to do anything. I expect him to do what he wants to do, but he does train quite regularly. He did kickboxing for many years, and is doing weights also, and he's expressed some interest in possibly competing. But of course it's hard to follow your father's footsteps if he's very successful. So of course if he wants to do it, I help him, but I also tell him it's very hard, it takes a lot of dedication.
Is genetics the most important factor to reach the success? Because if you look at the history of bodybuilding, you can see that there are some competitors who used to win for a couple of years in a row.
Well, genetics are important, yeah, because if you don't have certain genetic characteristics, you can't go so far. But it's not the most important factor. The most important factor is your mind. And everybody that's in professional bodybuilding, they have good genetics. But what separates the guy that's first from the guy that's second, or the guy that's in 10th place? Usually it's the mental side of things, and that probably applies to every sport or every avenue in life. Who's very successful is the guy that has the mental edge. Maybe there's one person in 10,000 that has the genetics to be a professional bodybuilder, but maybe only one in 100,000 that has the genetics and the mental approach to be very successful.
Do you think that you are that kind of man, that genetics and your mentality goes together?
I think I got 6 Sandow trophies at home that prove that.
How do you think, on what level now, and where would bodybuilding be if there weren't any supplements and supporting things like steroids? And what do you think of bodybuilders who used to compete before that period?
I think if there was no steroids and other kind of drugs used in bodybuilding or any other sport, then the level of competitor wouldn't be so good. But I would prefer it, because then maybe the sport would get more respect from the public, because right now they're only interested in this side of things. And for this reason, I think bodybuilding is not accepted and won't be accepted as a mass sport, because the association with drugs with the public, which is a shame, because there's a lot that everybody can learn from bodybuilding and from bodybuilders, and it's probably one of the hardest sports in the world.
Are you going to, can you see yourself in the future as a politician or as an actor in some movies like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what do you think of him himself, or are you going to stay by bodybuilding and keep going with bodybuilding in your future?
I think politicians and actors are exactly the same thing, and I'm neither of them. I'm not interested in being either of them either.
Yes. And what do you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
I think Arnold is, you have to respect that he achieved everything he set out to achieve. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. Else, except for bodybuilding, are you interested in films, music, anything?
Yeah, well, I always liked the martial arts. I did some before I did bodybuilding, but then when you do bodybuilding and competing, especially on a professional level, you can't afford to do any kind of other sports, so I do a little bit of that now, which I couldn't do before, which I enjoy. I like movies a lot, and in fact I think I was Blockbuster's best customer when I was competing, because I would watch movies all the time. As far as what kind of music do I like, depends. If I'm in the gym, I always used to play rock music when I'm training, because I like the energy of that. If I'm home, I like house music a lot, and I like nice clothes, which I can actually almost fit into now, where I couldn't before. So.
What do you think about the politics in the IFBB, especially you know, in these times it's very hard to compete for a European bodybuilder.
Well, it goes back to what I was told when I started to compete and I wanted to be a professional. In England, everybody told me that I won't be successful because of politics, because I don't know the judges, I don't know the promoters, I don't have any publicity in the magazines, blah 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 blah. I simply didn't listen to that, and I believed if you are good enough, you're good enough, and people can't deny you, people will recognize that. So I always wanted to go to a contest that I'm going to be looking so good that it's not possible that they can do anything. So I'm not saying there's some politics, there's politics in everything, but in the end of the day, if you're good enough, you're good enough. I went to New York, first contest, Night of Champions, with no publicity, not knowing anybody. There was no political reason for me to place high, and I got second place out of 27 competitors. So sometimes I think this talk of politics is just, it's basically just an excuse for people that don't place well. Of course, the judging process is, you know, it's a human process, so you can get bad decisions, you can get mistakes, but not every time, you know.
How do you think, who is the best bodybuilder, of course, except for you? How do you think?
Well, it's hard to, what do you mean by the best bodybuilder? If you mean just really the best physique, then I think then you have to look between Haney and Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman is bigger, of course, times have moved on. but if you look back, Haney was very outstanding when he was Mr. Olympia. So those two guys you have to look at. And if you want to go back further, and we're just talking about physique, probably at his best, Sergio Oliva was really outstanding as well. So I wouldn't like to choose between those three. And they're three different eras, of course. Sergio was from late 60s, 70s. Haney was the 80s, and Ronnie Coleman is the present. But all three of those guys were outstanding. And then, of course, Arnold was outstanding in his day. And if you want to say who's done most to make the sport recognized, then of course there's no contest, then it's Arnold, of course.
I oczywiście, how many years should you practice in bodybuilding to approach real success in bodybuilding?
Everybody's different in how they react. Most of the guys that were really successful professionals, then they were kind of outstanding quite early on. For instance, I competed in a world championship after 1.5 years training, and won my national championship after 3 years, so it's very quick. But I think I did a lot of research on training, so I didn't waste too much time. And then on the other hand, you have something like Ronnie Coleman that took a long time to be successful. But I think if you want to be on a professional level, then you're talking a minimum of normally 5 or 6 years minimum.
Yeah. At what age did you start to train bodybuilding? And at the very beginning, what did your training sessions look like? And how many times a week did you train?
Yeah, I was started training seriously when I was 20 years old, and I was training, I think at the time, three times a week, fairly basic exercises, one hour a day, 3 times a week. Many people, especially young guys, are very enthusiastic. They make a mistake of training too often or spending too much time in the gym. And that can be counterproductive, because when you're in the gym, you're actually breaking the muscle down, you're damaging it, and then you need to allow enough time to recover. If you're constantly going in the gym or you're going too long, the recovery process won't take place and you won't make progress.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank everybody for coming, and
yes,
wrap it up, and if they want something